Hello, John.
Hello, Oliver.
And we've done a video there earlier on about Coillte and the forest. Basically, we're back to it again. So Coillte spends a lot of money on pesticides. Over 10,200 litres and 5,800 kgs of pesticides were used across 2020 and 2021 by the public body, excluding any used in Coillte nurseries. Okay. They also used 45,000 litres and 800 kgs of pesticides on our national road network. They also use pesticides on our railway lines. So what's gone wrong here is that basically we don't really know how much pesticide has been used outside of that, okay, by the public as well. So we've got a lot of pesticides going into our water supply.
Correct.
And I think maybe we should go back to the old-fashioned way, which is manual, which is you cut the weeds and you done it properly.
That's right. And they're also used to sort of have the grass grown quicker, and all the rest of it for farmers are doing that because they can get 2 or 3 the grass grown, so they're used for that as well. And they're used in such a variety of areas, and Coillte using quite an amount. And on the roads also, but the towns are also using them because instead of having the paths in concrete or something like that, they have put tiles into many towns and villages to sort of give them to improve their appearance. But the trouble is, tiles are about use a lot of pesticide because moss and stuff can grow in the edges of these things. So,
that's right.
So they're using a lot of pesticides in towns with all these toys that they've put in. And Kells in County Westmeath, or in County Meath rather, is a heritage town, historical. There's for example, in Kells, there's for St. Coillte. St. Coillte was a monk there, and the St. Coillte cell, which I visited there with a friend of mine there from Palmerstown, and we visited it, and somebody has a key. You can't just be able to get permission. And we got permission actually from the tourist office, and they got in touch with the individual that has the key and man, and it was very, very interesting because there was where St. Coillte lay in the bed, there was a concrete affair, and I sat there and made some wishes because it has a very holy place. It's 800 years old or something, some fantastic amount. It's called St. Coillte Cell, and then the St. Coillte well, and then there's various other, there's a cross, the Celtic cross, hundreds of years old, which was used to be in the centre of the town, but it's now down near the tourist office because with the traffic and the way it has increased, it just was a hazard in the centre of the town and would be probably have deteriorated. But now it's still there, and it's down at the tourist office in front of it, and it's a great sound. So there's great history attached to Kells. But unfortunately, there's been roadworks going on, and roadworks where the credit union is for months. It was closed there for months. You couldn't go. You had to walk nearly on the road, and you couldn't go up the side road that you could go up heretofore or come. You can come down, but not go up. So they were laying down tiles. Now people could park cars in the credit union and go in and do their business, but they spent months on all these tiles. They're kind of grey tiles, and they're not as narrow as the other ones, but they're narrow enough. And this is what they put in, and put some kind of flowers or something. Now, an awful lot of expense. It must have cost a lot of money because it was there for months and months, and they put in those tiles. Now, as you go down towards the church, there's tiles that are very good. They're good wide ones, and they don't seem to need as much attention. But what are they doing? They're ripping up those tiles so as to have them in harmony with what's in front of the credit union. So they will need pesticides because you'll have stuff growing up. Otherwise they'd look unsightly, and sometimes these tiles often become loose and people trip on them. And there's compensation sought for because they can be injured. Whereas really all you want with a footpath or anything else is it shows you can walk.
Mm-hmm.
The tiles was kind of a concept that have taken root, and they need all these pesticides.
Mm-hmm.
People have put in tiles in their homes and they think it looks very nice. I have white tiles myself in my own home that was planted there before I ever come, but I've had more trouble with them and taking up the stuff that grows up at the sides, and they're big tiles. So they're a liability. If that place had been tarmac, had or concrete, they wouldn't have that problem. Mm-hmm. So they have the problems of pesticides.
So I think what you're saying, as well as it's about design, it's about the materials that we use on our footpaths. And
correct, and they can become a hazard because they become loose. But in Kells, and I said it to a workman, which I think they're private contractors, I said, I see you're ripping up perfectly good tiles. Well, what's the idea? Oh, they're going to put in the tiles like what's at the credit union, smaller tiles.
Okay.
I've nothing wrong with the tiles that was there.
Now, the other thing, John, is as well, okay?
So they're doing that in towns.
What is wrong with, if you go back to the roads of 100 years ago, okay?
Yes.
You'd walk down the road, there'd be a mixture of flowers, weeds, shrubs. What is wrong with having a few shrubs or a few weeds on the footpath?
Correct. At the side or something like that, but they have these tiles where you get moss coming up through and all the rest of it, and sometimes they become loose because there's often road work going on, so they're ripping up, they're going down to get something, so all these tiles are ripped up, whereas if it's an ordinary footpath, all you want is to be able to walk on a footpath and that it's kept in some kind of order like concrete. You don't need all these tiles. To have them in towns where there's no footfall on these tiles, so that they have to be maintained all the time.
I know.
With pesticides.
But I remember we done a video before where we were talking about Dublin City and how you transform it cheaply, okay? And one way you would do that is to put loads of plants, trees, shrubs all over the city, okay?
Correct, it was there.
Yeah. So what I'm thinking is if you could redesign our city streets and our towns in such a way, right, that a weed wouldn't look out of place because it's beside a shrub. You know
Correct,
what I mean?
yeah.
That kind of thing. And that we shouldn't assume that just because it's a footpath that it shouldn't have a weed or it shouldn't have a flower. It should have, actually. You know, it should be more natural.
You see, this is the thing. I mean, I don't remember any problem with footpaths when I was young. There was none of this obsession with tiles and all this sort of stuff. You had a footpath that you could walk on.
Yeah.
Now they're widening footpaths and nobody is on them. They're interfering with the traffic flow. So whether it's a green agenda business or what, I don't know, or whether all these ones in County Council are infused with this, whatever it is that they're infused with. People only want to walk on the footpath, a proper footpath with tiles, that you're not going to trip on something. Tiles is not, they're not necessary in my book. And I don't know what it is that councils think that it enhances the towns. It doesn't. Mm-hmm. Oldcastle is full of all these tiles, and yet there's nobody walking much on them.
Yeah.
And they can become loose and all the rest. But of course, you have to use pesticides. So I'm just saying that between the pesticides that are used by Coillte and other private interests. And people with gardens are probably using them. So that's not good for diversity and so on and so forth. I'm certainly not using anything, and I've nothing but blackbirds and thrushes and robins. I have to feed them every morning, never mind every morning, a few times a day. They're pretty well nearly coming into the house.
Very demanding birds, John.
And I have to put a bit on the windowsill for some other little yellow fellas. I don't know what the little finches or whatever they call them.
Yes. Well, I suppose the thing about it is
there's a bit of biodiversity where I am.
You certainly are keeping God's feathered friends alive and well? You're feeding them well?
Oh yes, well, they're always waiting for me because you know the big car then as well. And as soon as I open the bloody door, because they're out and kind of
Looking for you?
keeping an eye. Blackbirds in the whole lot of them.
Sure.
Now with the cold weather it was good, but now the weather is not so bad today, so they can get some in the ordinary nature, the way nature provides it.
I was over in Ashbourne one day, and there was a woman. She was corner house, lovely big garden. She'd flowers, she'd everything inside of it, and she was spraying with a can. And I said to her, and the little dog was sniffing everything she was spraying. Okay, and I said to her, I says, "Can I ask you, what is that vinegar you're spraying there?" Okay,
Yeah.
and she says, "Oh God, no." She says, "It's Roundup, okay, weed killer." Okay, and I said, "Your little dog might be going to heaven soon." And she says, "What do you mean?" And I said, "Well, your little dog, every time you're spraying, he's sniffing it up his nose. Okay? That's
Right.
weed killer, it's Roundup, it'll kill the dog." And she says, "Oh my God, I never knew that." So people aren't aware of these things.
No, there's a lot of
People
people not aware
are
of.
putting these glyphosate, whatever you call them, into their gardens. They're going around, they're not wearing gloves, they're not wearing goggles, okay? And they're spraying away with all these poisons, okay? And then they're wondering why they're getting cancer.
Correct. Exactly. Yeah. You've got to be, and of course they're advertised all these pesticides as if they're good. There was a one that did away with years ago, and it was considered good, and it used to be advertised a lot. I can't think of the name of it there. Wasn't it funny? There's so much upstairs in the brain box that's nearly more than a computer, nearly more than you have to press buttons nearly to try and remember. There was something that they used which was actually good, but then it was stopped for some reason or another, and it was actually good. Good for the soil, and it wasn't a pesticide in the full sense of the word like what they're using now. Farmers are using pesticides. I think the business of the slurry, when we're talking about pesticides, rivers and lakes are polluted. They were full of fish years ago in my time, and as a matter of fact my father used to get a boat. It never seemed to somebody give him a boat, and we used to go out and used to fish, and we were throwing out lines, and you'd be catching more fish than you'd be using, because the place was full of fish. And the rivers as well. My brother, Lord Mercy Dolan, used to have what they call a fly fisher, and they used to bring home trout. Yeah. They were all over the place, but now there's a scarcity as hen's teeth. There's damn all trout. I don't know where they come from. I don't think they're coming from our rivers.
Yeah.
So, I mean, all that has been interfered with. I don't hear much talk about it.
Mm-hmm. John Malone, I think we'll have a commercial break now, and we'll have a few chocolate fingers and some tea.
I think that's very welcome for travellers.
It is indeed, okay. We'll do that. Thank you very much, John.
Very much, John.